Hi, this is Krystal M. and you are watching Young, Bold, and Regal.
All right, to start off with, first off, how did you land the role in Straight Outta Compton, the biggest movie of the year so far?
Oh, that's a funny one because, a friend of mine actually wrote the original screenplay, and so he was trying to get me on for one of the other roles, and it didn't work out. I couldn't get into casting. So I was like, I want to be a part of this movie no matter what. So I heard an extras casting call, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So I went and I got booked for the extras role. And it's not, beneath me to do extra work at times, especially when you're working with a director like F. Gary Gray. Any way I could get on that film, I wanted to do it. So I did that, and then because of my acting coach, see, F. Gary Gray asked all of the girls who were there who was a real actress, and me and my girlfriend, we said we were real actresses, and he said, who did you study with? And we told him our coach's name, and then he was like, I know that name, that's a good acting coach. So he's like, cool. And then he goes away, and then an AD comes up and asks me and my girlfriend to come inside the house. And so it was just me and her out of these other girls. And so, coaching with the right people definitely makes an impact, because he knew the name, he knew that we could do something. And he told us, he's like, I know you guys are real actresses, there's no lines, but I need you to sell how bad this song is, how bad this diss track is. So just expressions, and he really needed that, and I didn't realize it was going to be as big as it was.
What was the vibe like on set with F. Gary Gray? And let me know if, like, the days you were shooting, if Ice Cube was there, if Dr. Dre was there.
Ice Cube and Dr. Dre were not there when I was shooting. Paul Giamatti obviously was there, F. Gary Gray, and everyone who's in the cast. So they were all super, super cool. And in between takes, they were goofing around, but they're also very talented, very passionate actors. So I could tell when it was like, we need to just keep it calm, keep it really silent, so that they can get into the mode that they needed to get into. So it wasn't like, you girls are not important. They would interact with us, but at times it was like, we need everybody to be cool so that they can get into the right mindset. So it was good. And F. Gary Gray's super cool. So much fun.
So what was it like to work with him and work with the cast in that scene?
It was, it's a small scene. It was, I think we took maybe 2 hours to shoot that, and we just listened to the song, and it wasn't hard. That was a very serious diss track. The expressions you see on all of our faces is not faked. It was like, oh. And I grew up listening to Ice Cube, but not really so much NWA. So I didn't know this song. And when I heard it, I was like, oh my God. Like these disses were crazy. So, yeah.
So, in an article recently that Sanaa Lathan was talking about her recent movie, The Perfect Guy, she talked about how black actors and black films are marginalized. So talk about your experience in the industry where you felt that or you sensed that in terms of being marginalized, not only as a black actor, but maybe as a female actor, or any experience that is similar to what Sanaa Lathan was talking about.
I definitely agree with that, but my perspective on it has always been to what's the positive side of that, For example, if I get a casting call and there are, it's an ensemble cast, I know one of those roles is going to be black. And so I'm very excited because I know that they're going to have the token. So as long as I do my job, then I could possibly get that token spot. Film has to grow, and this industry is growing. So I think, make lemonade out of lemons. I think that those films are marginalized. These voices sometimes are, pushed to the back burner. But I think that it's time, and it's moving forward. It's moving forward. So I guess when you are, I became an actress at this time. And so I can't really come in here and really, I want to change things, but you also have to work with the flow of what's going on right now, and then you have to get in there to change things. I guess.
So what are some things you would change about the industry?
Well, the main thing is, I always joke around with people, probably get in trouble for saying this too, but I think there needs to be like an HR for actors, for the acting industry. I think sometimes women have a very hard time becoming creators, being actors. You know, we get propositioned often, and there's nobody we can really go to. And that, I think, is something that should just change. We're all artists. We just want to make stuff, you know, and a lot of people want to make money. Why do we have to, you know, subject ourselves to this kind of treatment? And it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens often enough that it's a problem. So I think for that's what needs to change.
Right. Recently, you were in an episode of the hit TV show series on ShowTime, Ray Donavon.
Yeah.
So, in there, you have a nudity scene, and on your blog, the industry standard, you talk about doing nudity tastefully and then doing nudity unnecessarily. So, speak about that scene, how you got the role, and also speak about what compelled you to write that article.
Well, when I decided to take this role, I talked to my mother, I talked to my agent, and then I looked on the internet, like, what's it like shooting a nude role? And there wasn't actually a lot of information out there from people who had done it. And so that is the reason I wrote the article. But in terms of taking the role, it's like I spelled it out in that article. It's a big show. It's with one of the main actors in the series. I mean, you leave Schreiber, it's with him. So, and my character needed to be nude. She was getting caught by her husband in bed with another man. I don't know how you're going to do that scene without her being naked. So it was fine, and the focus was not on the fact that I was nude. So that is why I personally took it. But I realized that nudity is a very powerful tool. So I didn't want to write an article and say, hey, this is what you need to do, this is how you do nudity, because first of all, I've only done it once, and that's only my personal experience. But what I've noticed is that you can use nudity to increase your star meter, if you will, you know. So I want to write for everyone, because not everybody wants to do nudity in the way I did it. There wasn't anything sexy really about my scene. So some girls want to get on there, or guys want to get on there and show their assets and say, look at me, I'm sexy. There's no problem with that. I have no issues with that. So what do those people do? Some of them don't have that information. How are you going to go about, you know, taking a nude role to show your assets if you have no kind of guidelines about doing it? So I just wrote the article and said you still need to be in a scene with the main characters. You still should try and have lines. And it should be a scene that I call it the gifable image. You know, you want to look sexy. You want your star meter to rise. Make sure you look good in it as well, because that's what's going to set you apart, rather than being, and I did use the example of the girl in Wolf of Wall Street, who's kind of in the opening scene with just her bum in the air, you know. Does anybody know who that girl is other than IMDb? You know, does anybody really look that girl up? That may not have been the best way to go about doing nudity if you want to use it as a tool to increase your popularity.
So what were you feeling right before you did that scene? In the article, you said you were feeling nervous, but elaborate on that a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I was completely nervous. I mean, I've been in the business for 7 years. I've been in LA for 9 years. So I always said I was never going to do nudity. But as I said, I learned that it could be a tool, and it's a very good show. So I was willing to do it, and I was very nervous when I was on set, you know, sitting in there in my robe, and I'm like, okay, I'll just wait. But the crazy thing is, when you're acting, and if you're doing your job, then when I took the robe off and I was in the scene, I didn't feel naked because Krystal wasn't actually there. I mean, yes, Krystal was there, but it was Krystal Martinez, not Krystal Harris. So, character's name in Ray Donavon. So yeah, I actually felt like the character was my clothes, so I wasn't naked. And that's a beautiful thing. That is something that I think some actors reading the article who are thinking about maybe doing nudity, how does it feel on set? If you do your work, you won't feel naked.
All right. Would you ever do any more nudity scenes if it was similar to Ray Donovan, where it was tasteful and it was necessary?
You know, I would probably take my time with the next one. I read an article that Emilia Clarke talked about doing nudity and how she gave up the role of 50 Shades of Grey because she didn't want to be known and pigeonholed for that. She's got a great body, but she wanted to use it for what it was, for the tool that it was, and it served its purpose. It doesn't need to be a repeat offense all the time. So if it was the right role, if it was necessary, and if it wasn't like the whole project was centered around me being naked, then yeah, I'm not opposed to it. But it's not something I'm like. I've had my agents call me, hey, do you mind doing this? Do you mind doing that? And I'm like, great shows too, very good shows, but no, taking my time.
Yeah. So recently in a Huffington Post interview that you did, you talked about how you were had a situation with a producer where he propositioned you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I want to know.
You're just gonna get me in so much trouble.
Oh, that's not my point. I'm just trying to open you up a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what did you want to know?
So, how did that make you feel? And what is some advice for, let's say, a young woman coming in the industry, and how to avoid the pitfalls?
Well, they're always going to be there, and what you have to realize is everything in this industry presents opportunities. It's just know what the outcome could be from those choices you make. I'm not a proponent for saying, this is the right way. Everybody makes their own steps, and it works out for some people. It doesn't work out for some people. You might decide to to sleep with a producer to get somewhere. That's your choice, and that's fine. It's not my life. It's your life. As long as you're comfortable with those choices, just be comfortable with it, because it may come with some consequences you weren't aware of. For me, that situation was laughable, to be honest. The producer worked on this project with me for ages, and then before I even signed the contract, he's propositioning me, asking me to send pictures and things like that. And in my head, I was just like, I didn't sign the papers. Why would you do this before you even have my work, So then I just called his agent and canceled the deal, and moved on from that. It's not like a big thing in my career, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened to me. It was just kind of funny that he didn't do it in a smart way.
So he was amateur and unprofessional.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.